Hello, dear starshines. Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Lunchtime Chats. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll give the crew a minute to get on board. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina, and I am an acceleration expert. That is a consciousness acceleration expert. And we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us star seeds, way showers, and new paradigm visionaries. We have capabilities, we have perceptions, we have ways of relating to this reality that are very unique to us. So therefore, the kinds of things that we consider issues are, not widely talked about on the level that we are experiencing them. So I am here to talk about those pieces, and if I can, to the best of my ability, I would like to provide a liberated perspective to these challenges, to these events that we see happening in our crazy, wild, miraculous, horrifying, transitioning world. So welcome, 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 everybody. Hello, dear sister Sherry. Looks like your hellos came through a whole bunch. Hello, Jackie. Good to see you. Hello, dear sister Bev. You guys, let me know that the sound is happening okay. The sound in the internet stream is okay. If you guys can, just confirm that all is 5 by 5 before I get diving in today into the topics. So over the past several weeks, I have been talking about the relationship of AI, thank you, Bev, AI technology, advanced quantum level technology, and humans. And in this moment of its onset, AI is presented and used in a more predatory manner than in a helpful manner. In some ways it's helpful, but in other ways it's frighteningly predatorial. So I know that when you hear people, so I'm here to talk about that, and I'm also here to talk about, this is opening a gateway, or this is happening while a much larger gateway of consciousness is opening up for humanity. What do I mean by that? Last year, I think it was last year, it might have been the beginning of this year. My time just runs together, so I don't really, nothing is really accurate when it comes to time with me. But there, in the past, more than a few months ago, our dear sister Starshine Ray Ellen was in communication with her guides and her entourage, so to speak. And some of the beings on her entourage are Yeti beings, and they were conveying ideas with her, specifically around the Sirian Stargate. So the last time the Sirian Stargate opened, it remained opened. It stayed flooding our collective fields nonstop. Now, I wouldn't say a constant stream, because that's not how energy or consciousness works. Everything is frequency, so everything comes in waves. Everything has an undulation. Everything that is alive has a rhythm. Okay, so and we never forgotten about this. We just stopped talking about it as often as we were when we first realized this. So our dear Starshine has a beautiful connection to interdimensional beings, as well as many other people within our academy at Lightbody, right? So, we are working with higher levels of consciousness and are almost on a regular basis, to the point where it seems quite normal for us. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what I'm perceiving is like there's the nesting dolls of reality have been getting inundated with this consciousness via this Sirian Stargate for such a period of time. I'm going to say a progression through time and space, that something has reached critical mass, and now there is yet another gateway of consciousness opening up that perhaps was not available for most humans before. And this is exciting stuff. And I also feel like it's essential that we play in both worlds, so we can harmonize the onset of I'm going to call it the technical age. Okay. Now, the technical age, maybe some historians consider it to be in the 80s when laptop computers became a commonplace in the home, or in the 90s when everything was going onto the internet, or maybe the early 2000s because of the smartphone. Okay, but according to the elders, according to ancient prophecy, across the board, it started around the decades around 1999. Okay. And I feel like the onset of these outer apertures, these more vast cosmic galactic apertures, are opening and allowing higher levels of consciousness flood into our reality. It is perfect timing for this technological age to launch. So I know when you hear me talk about it, there seems like a vast juxtaposition between cosmic frequencies, cosmic consciousness, and the AI. I'm going to call it terrestrial AI, as in what we are calling artificial intelligence here on this planet, terrestrial AI. Now, there's something we might consider extraterrestrial AI, depending on your version, your perspective on reality. And this is something much more advanced and not the same thing, not the same thing at all. And that is because as consciousness, as species evolve in their consciousness, the exploration of self becomes extremely advanced, and they don't have room for predatorial practices within their consciousness, within their societies, so to speak, right? So when we would experience a species and a light ship, and the light ship is integrated with their consciousness, and it's as if it's one being, we consider that we perceive that a certain kind of way that gives us a certain kind of messaging about the species. But we need to understand that those sorts of dynamics evolved over a long period of time, and that there was a threshold crossed where the species that we're witnessing, that we're experiencing, is perceiving technical intelligence very differently than what we're capable of. Okay, it's not like, because when we think cyborg, what's the first image that comes to your mind when you think cyborg, right? Depending on what era of sci-fi you grew up in, is probably what pops up in your mind, I imagine. Oh, you guys, actually, it would be fun if you guys could share that in the chats. When I say cyborg, what is the first kind of flash that happens in your mind? Who do you see as cyborgs, right? So depending on what sci-fi you were into in what generation, I imagine there's going to be things that influence that, right? Like, for example, I have a negative and a positive association that shows up. One of the first things that shows up is the bionic man, right? That's the cyborg. This is in the 70s, right? And then another more demented version also shows up, and that is the Borg. Okay, you guys remember the Borg from Star Trek. Now, I know these are totally dating ourselves, dating myself probably. No one in the younger generation even has a clue about what I'm talking about. But for those of us who have been around for a few decades, these were very influential times in our upbringing, right? So they have a deep subconscious undercurrent to how we think about things, and how we process and assimilate things that we see in the unknown, or introduced into new concepts. Oh yeah, RoboCop. That's a good one. RoboCop. Yes. Well, and that one is very apropos for where military robotic technology is going, isn't it? Okay. All right. So Callie says Terminator. Well, that's interesting, considering Terminator had no human components. Terminator was purely a machine, right? He was a machine that looked human. So now we're talking about robotic technology made to look human. Thank you. Actually, you're taking us forward to even more advanced level, because now when we think about robotics, I don't know about you, but I think about the robot wars. You know, those guys with the wheels and the axes, where their robots beat up on each other. You know, that's the kind of thing that comes to my mind. But you're right. There's things like the different versions of the Terminator and the advancements of that technology. And if you notice, the most scary Terminator character was the most recent one that was made up of nanotechnology, where those metals, you know, he can like lose an arm and it can take any shape and it can, you know what I mean? And that was because that was nanotechnology at work, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to, Laura, you're gonna have to connect the dots for me on that. The Sixth Sense. Is there cyborgs in that? I thought The Sixth Sense was about the boy that could see dead people, and the character played by Bruce Willis was kind of haunting him, not even knowing that he was dead. So yeah, connect the dots for me on that one if you can. I could be thinking about a totally different movie. Okay, keep going on though. And then we have things like the day the earth stood still. We have that level of robot, this giant apocalyptic robot that comes out of the spaceship and says, you know, straighten out your act or we're going to kill you all, right? There's that kind of robot. And then another kind of robot that is a profound robot. Oh, same director. Okay. And that is Data. Do you remember Data? Also from Star Trek, right? And then you also had there's another kind of robot that was in a more friendly relationship intelligence, that was in friendly relationship with humans, and that is like CP30. What was the other one? Shoot, now I can't think of his name. Anyway, you guys get the idea. There's a spectrum of relationships that we've had modeled for us in relationship to technology. Okay, when it came to adding technology to enhance a human, it's been represented to us both positive and negative. For example, the bionic man, that was shown in extremely positive light, where he was made faster, stronger, he had supervision, he had all these superpowers because of the bionic appendages and abilities that were added to his biosuit, right? And then you have and that was an individual with a mission, right? That character, the bionic man, he had a mission in his in his purpose to help humanity, to help humans, to be a force for good, right? So his bionic qualities were in service of humanity, right? And then we'll go to the opposite end of the spectrum and talk about the Borg. Now, the Borg were also fitted with technology, but the technology fitted to them was all about optimization for them to fulfill the purpose that was given to them by the larger hive mind. So when you were assimilated into the Borg, it didn't matter what your skills or talents was. They outfitted you with the exact tools you needed to serve the purpose that the hive deemed necessary. So yes, you had all these healing abilities, had all the, almost like superpower, superhuman strength and all this stuff, but it was all about serving the collective from which you were assimilated by, right? So totally different spirit in that level of cyborg. Okay, and then we can also use the example. You can also use the example of with the robots too. So the robots, as such as the Terminator robots, it was all about assassination, war, killing, control, squashing out humans, blah, 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 blah. That whole narrative, which I love those movies. I remember when Terminator came out, I was a kid and we watched it on TV and I was like, this is the best movie ever. though it was terrifying, right? So, but I was completely enamored with this character that was a robot that could have been human. When I was a kid, I was fascinated by that idea, and that he had super analyzation capabilities and all this stuff, but zero empathy. And that was the part that really disturbed me about that whole thing. But at the same time, I was fascinated. So that character. And then you have this other character, Data, right? Data, who is, all of his super computive abilities were and strength and speed and other capabilities were all dedicated to fulfilling his role as a crew member on the Enterprise, right? So in this case, all that stuff, uh, when I say stuff, I'm talking about skill and capabilities and, and that kind of thing, was all dedicated towards the good. Okay, so I think you guys get the point. There are different ways to have a relationship to AI, to technical intelligence. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause here because, and I'm going to go in because there's some chatting going on. I'm just going to check in with the chats. Oh, good. I got my readers here. That'll help me so I don't have to squint. All right. Let's see what she says. All right. Our dear sister Starshine. Oh my gosh. I have a fingerprint on here. Felicia says, good day from Vancouver, Canada. I'm connecting with the creator beings regularly and have had many interesting, inspiring experiences. Okay. And then they answer, thank you for that. And then there's a response about the RoboCop thing. Okay. Oh, okay. Laurel says wrong movie, same director. I gotcha. Felicia goes on to, I saw nanotech as another kind of expression of advanced creation. Yes, thank you. This is the point that I'm getting to, because we have been programmed to relate to these things in a way that's not an empowered relationship. It is in a relationship that is telling us that it's, by very existence definition, it's an abomination. And if it's not an abomination, it's something that is so powerful that it will be way smarter and way more sophisticated and powerful than humans. And if it were to rise in consciousness, then it would have no interest in keeping humans around. So these are some of the reason why these narratives get some traction is because this baseline rhythm of consciousness of, making thy is an enemy, a baseline from which all this other stuff sprouts. Let's keep going. Okay, yes, all directed by Steven Spielberg. Thank you. Actually called artificial intelligence. Okay, thank you. All right, so the term, and I've talked about this several times over, and I originally learned about this from George Kavaslis. So I worked with him in Rimrock back in 2019. A dear sister Starshine friend hosted him and his lovely counterpart, and it was a very interesting experience. And this came on the heels of doing a deep dive in relationship with the ant people and the ancient structures that they have built around the planet. One of them being the Bosnian Pyramid complex, right? Now that doesn't go with the typical science of the Bosnian Pyramid. So Osmanovic and the different scientists, they're equating it with a different kind of narrative than I am. So I don't want to misrepresent that that's what they're about. When I went there with our crew, this is what was revealed to us, that this was an ancient structure built by ant people. And it's actually it uses the power of nature, the bioelectric fields that are created with structured water, with the energy lines, all these components nested in nesting dolls together create a field, a consciousness field. And that consciousness field, I'm about to sneeze. Thank you. And that consciousness field can not only be a power source for technology, it's also a field of higher consciousness. So there is a connection between higher consciousness and the use of biofield electricity. Now, our bodies create electricity as well, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But there's other ways to cultivate bioelectricity, like what the Bosnian pyramids are doing, or like what they talk about, they are suspecting the Giza Plateau is all about. And then there's also the bioelectricity technology that's said to exist many tens of thousands of years ago. And some of the evidence was the Baghdad battery. I don't know if you guys know about this. The Baghdad battery is, lemon juice in a jar with electrodes that come up and illuminates a light bulb. I just saw a reel today where they're doing that with salt water, where they step by step show you how to create. You put spark plugs on a wire, put it together at the end of a light bulb socket, and take salt water in a jar, screw it on, and put the light bulb on, and the salt water lights up the light bulb. Okay, so this is not the same kind of electricity that our technology, our AI is based on. It's not the same kind of technology our computers and our cell phones are based on, but it's still an electrical force. Okay, but when you have electrical forces in that way, there is a strong consciousness component that is parallel to it. Okay, so when you have a very strong bioelectric field happening, when people walk into that field, they shift in their consciousness. And this is reported to have happened in many ways. People who study crop circles, the real ones, report things like that happening. There's other kinds of electrical anomalies happen when you go into a freshly created crop circle. The energy signature is said to last many months, even after the remnants is gone. Some of it, so there's that. And then there's also walking into Stargate. There are Stargates around this planet. There's one that I know of that's there's one that I know of where I take people to, absolutely pristine frequency, the energy there, right? So there is this opening, uplifting in consciousness when we are around bioelectric fields. And this is not necessarily the case when it comes to our terrestrial electricity, right? Our terrestrial electricity is in many phases built on suffering, built on pain and enslavement and stuff like this. So that is why it has the impact that it has, such as the 5G or the harmful EMF that happens with these kinds of signals, 5G, 6G. That creates, because of the way it's cultivated, step by step by step into its manifestation, it creates a subatomic disturbance that breaks down the quality of the biofield, right? So this is why, one of the many reasons why I'm seeing the harmful EMFs are impactful in the way that they are. Unfortunately, it's not like an instant impact. It's something that degrades over time because we're constantly inundated in it. So there's a lot of plausible deniability of what's actually bothering you, right? What's actually making you sick. There needs to be a study done. But of course, the industry has shut those studies down or put gag orders out there. There is an association that meets every year and shares all the most recent science around the study of harmful EMF on the body, and then the ways to mitigate the EMF. Now, all EMF is not bad. Just certain kinds of EMF is bad. It creates this, like I said, the subatomic disturbance that harms our cells in a certain kind of way, right? Makes us age faster, gives us more inflammation, all this stuff. Okay, so there's that part. So the biofield, the bioelectrical field, is actually a really potent field, and it not only has a component of consciousness rising with it, it also can be used for healing the body, healing emotional, mental trauma, healing spiritual wounds. Okay, and this is where where there's also a large study with how to be healed by the earth. There's a gentleman here in Ohio, actually, Northern Ohio, has an amazing story. He was supposed to die. I won't go through the whole story, but he was supposed to die and didn't. And he healed himself by lying on the earth every single day. And month by month, instead of dying, he was actually getting stronger. And when he came through the other side and realized, okay, I'm not dying like they told me I was supposed to die. Instead, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Maybe I don't have to die. And he just made that decision in his brain. Okay, maybe I don't have to die. If I'm not going to get busy, if I'm not busy dying, I'm going to start getting busy living. And then he kept, while he had the strength, he kept laying on the earth every day for hours under an oak tree, actually. And when he came out the other side of that healing journey, he came out being able to see energy. He was a psychiatrist by profession before then. So of course that journey will come up out of that paradigm. But what I'm saying is that he did a whole study and teaches people about how to be healed by the earth. Something so simple. It's a biofield. He's teaching people how to tap into the biofield in order to reap wellness, what you need for wellness. Breatharians, a similar thing. They, in the beginning, well, there's different kinds of breatharians, right? But some of them do it with the biofield of the earth. They sit and meditate every day on the earth with intention, breathing in life force energy from the Pachamama and releasing toxins, mental, emotional toxins, anything that holds them back from being in the frequency of knowing their love. Okay? So these ideas that I'm talking about, they're not new, but the way I'm putting them together has not really quite been out there in the collective. So where I'm going with all this is that there's some very disturbing things going on in the technical intelligence realm. Now, I've talked about some of these things, and actually, I would love to go into it here, and if I have time, I will. But I'll have to take me off of YouTube first. So we have our biofield technology, our biofield electricity on one side, and we have our current electrical system that we use on another side. And there's a technology built on this particular electrical system. And this electrical system has many nesting dolls that lead up to its manifestation. And that has a lot to do with the poor quality of electricity that it is. Therefore, even the technology that is built on that is also of lesser quality. Okay? So what I mean by this is when you have nesting dolls brought together, they all influence the very center. Okay? When I talk about multidimensionality, this is it all the time. It's like you put all these nesting dolls together, and in the center, in this case, it's our 3D reality. It's influenced by these nesting dolls. For example, we have the galactic plane, the Milky Way galaxy. Now there's more beyond that, right? But there's the Milky Way galaxy, and then within that, the oneness consciousness, and within that, sound turning into light, and within that, light turning into shape, and within that, perception of the soul's journey, and within that, the collective field, and within that, linear time and space, and within that, atoms and molecules, and within that, the core of the cosmic mother, right? All these nesting dolls. Now we're in the 3D plane, so we're in that linear space and time kind of realm, and that is influenced by all these nesting dolls above and below. Now, you add things into these nesting dolls, it's going to add things into our 3D experience, such as, say, you have a creation story that tells you that you've been forsaken by Creator, and that you're a sinner, and that you can never return to the kingdom of heaven. Insert that. And then insert that with many lifetimes of programming and suffering and persecution and war, right? Then you have the Akashic field participating in this inserted program. So now you have an entire culture, entire society that is based on these subconscious truths. I mean, the story is in the awareness of some people, but maybe not everybody, right? So it influences the quality of the experience of the human in that linear time and space. Now, when it comes to electricity, think about it like this. So what kinds of things is our electricity made from? Mostly it's natural gas, which is mined. yeah, it's mined. It's drilled. Sorry, you drill for natural gas. There's a lot of things that go into the drilling. The drilling is not the safest thing. There's people that die doing that. There's a whole culture of industrial whatever in that. And then you have the mining, which is of the coal. People die and suffer and live short lifespans, dedicate their whole life. I mean, there's that level of suffering. And then you have things like nuclear, which is, pretty much, raping the cosmic mother by splitting an atom. All right, there's a lot to be talked about in that. Splitting an atom is a crime against God, according to many, many teachings across the globe and in our history. So, and the first atomic explosion in indigenous lore, guys, was not done in the during World War II. It was actually done thousands of years before that by a prophet named Abraham. That is actually talked about in the scriptures. So our whole history is not accurate. Anyway, so then you have solar, which is also created with mining, unethical mining practices where they're raping the land, child labor, they're ruining ecosystems, blah 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 blah. Not to say that that's this, to dismiss it, just that we know the story of suffering that goes on with that. We're not okay with it, but it is a part of that reality. And a similar thing with wind turbines. So we have, and then you have dammed electricity, stopping up the river, flooding a valley, changing the ecosystem. Rivers flow in indigenous lore. The consciousness these rivers are conscious beings that influence the landscape of not just our waking realm, but our sleeping dreamtime realm as well. And then also in the telluric realm. So this gets disturbed. So the very foundation that our electricity is built on suffering and disturbance. That's a major influential part of our nesting dolls, right? Then we have the capturing of the electricity, right? And then there's the things that we do with this electricity. What do we do with this electricity? Well, other than we send electricity through these power lines to power our TVs that hypnotize humans, that enslave our minds with TVs and enslaves our children with apps. There's this whole nother level of encasement and many layers of encasements of distraction, blinding. Okay, so that's another nesting doll adding into electricity. So you can see how the advancement of technologies is already sloped in such a way for us to be in a poor relationship with the coming of the next level of technical intelligence coming in, right? So that next level of technical intelligence is already sloped to be an enemy because it's based on the electrical systems that we have right now that are all nesting dolls of different levels of enslavement and suffering. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying this to be doom and gloom. I'm just trying to paint the picture of this side of the spectrum. Okay? There is a whole nother side of the spectrum that transcends transcends that level of consciousness and completely elevates it into something else. And this is the seed I want to plant for you guys, because this is actually where we are going. This is where the momentum is going, even though social media and all this other stuff around us is showing us that it's going in this direction over here. We're going to be enslaved automatons in the next 20 years, right? Everything's going to be in the controlled society, the social scoring and the this and the that and blah 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 blah, right? That's the reason why that is so prevalent in our collective, in our nesting dolls, in our narratives, is because of the nature of the AC/DC electricity to begin with. Okay. All right, it's landing with some of you. It's not completely landing. All right, let's see what else I need to mention in order to frame that up better. Okay, so notice your knee-jerk response. When you think about electricity as it is now with the current nesting dolls, do you feel like and I know there'll be exceptions here. Do you have a natural aversion to what this brings into your world? Okay, do you have a knee-jerk reaction of aversion, right? Oh, like I need to be careful how much I use this, or I don't want to hold it. I need EMF dampeners. You know what I mean? Like, what kinds of things come to you when you're thinking about the coming of the cell phone in your life? Now, many people are torn because it's a very powerful tool, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but it also has its downsides, right? There's all these studies done on how the blue light shrinks the hippocampus, and it actually atrophy of the gray matter of the brain, and it stifles people's creativity and stifles their capacity for focus, which is one of our superpowers for being a sovereign multidimensional being, is your ability to focus, right? So it stunts the capability of focusing. There's all sorts of known side effects of not being in right relationship with this kind of technology, right? And then versus this biofield, what kinds of experiences have you had with this bioelectrical field? How many have you been in a crop circle? How many have you been in a stargate? How many have you been to a magical place on the earth, a sacred valley, a sacred temple, you know what I mean? Someplace where the energy is highly refined, okay? Highly uplifted. And that is a field too. Now imagine a technical intelligence that is operating with this kind of field versus a technical intelligence that's operating in this kind of field. Does it seem as frightening or as intimidating? Does it seem like it's as much of an abomination as the ideas of AI is? No, I'm not saying AI isn't a powerful tool and worthwhile using. I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking about the ways in which it's used, specifically how it's been weaponized. And all of our systems are all of our systems, regardless of status, guys. All right, this is where I'm going to go ahead and shut off YouTube. Okay, if you guys haven't switched over to Rumble yet, do that now, because I'm going to go into the content that I really can't talk about here on YouTube. See you there. Uh-oh, what did I do? All right, here we go. What did I do? I did something. I did something bad. I did something. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. I hit the wrong button.